Keith was using her. That's the line racing through social feeds, credited to Megyn Kelly, and it flips the story everyone thought they knew. For 19 years, Keith Urban was framed as the devoted husband who adored Nicole Kidman. Now the allegation says the opposite. He married into Hollywood power, leveraged Nicole's fame and connections, kept his touring freedom, and is walking away with little fallout. What's pushing this claim into overdrive are the concrete pieces people are pointing to. The parenting plan naming Nicole as the primary residential parent, the time split of 306 days with Nicole and 59 with Keith, and the late summer signatures on their plan weeks before the filing. To many, those details look less like a sudden breakup and more like a carefully managed exit that preserved Keith's career, while centering day-to-day life with Nicole. Supporters of the claim say the pattern is obvious: red carpets, mainstream TV, broader name recognition, and a touring schedule that rarely slowed. Critics push back that custody math and career visibility don't prove intent, but the narrative is already shifting. Was Keith the grateful partner, or the strategist who benefited most from the marriage? Tonight's focus stays on that central question, tested against what's documented about the split and the choices made on the way out.
Nicole Kidman has filed for divorce from Keith Urban after 19 years of marriage.
Keith and Nicole's shocking $325 million split that rocked the movie and music worlds. Now we're tracing the clue.
When Megyn Kelly entered the conversation, everything shifted. She isn't a gossip blogger or a fan page commentator. She's a seasoned media figure with a reputation for challenging the Hollywood narrative, the polished, public version of events that celebrities want people to believe. That's why her alleged comments hit so hard. When someone with her platform and audience suggests that Keith wasn't the grateful husband everyone thought he was, but a man who used Nicole Kidman to elevate his career, people stop scrolling and start listening. Megyn has built her career on pushing back against the carefully crafted image of celebrity culture. Her audience doesn't buy the idea of perfect marriages and fairy tale love stories that end with polite press releases about mutual respect. They expect there's always more beneath the surface: power, status, and strategy. So when her name became attached to the idea that Keith married up and benefited more from the relationship than Nicole ever did, it fit exactly into the skepticism her followers already had toward Hollywood relationships. The claim circulating across social platforms says that Megyn framed Keith not as the man who worshipped his wife, but as the opportunist who played the long game. He gained access to rooms he couldn't enter alone, red carpets that didn't invite country singers, and circles that turned him from Nashville star to global celebrity. In her alleged view, Nicole didn't get that same boost. Her fame, money, and influence were already established. Keith's career, on the other hand, grew dramatically during the years they were together, and that, according to this claim, wasn't coincidence. Whether Megyn actually said those exact words or not, the narrative spread because it makes people re-examine everything about this divorce. For nearly 2 decades, the public saw Keith as the devoted partner who credited Nicole for saving his life, staying by him through rehab, and grounding his success. But now, people are being asked to consider a much colder possibility. What if every red carpet smile, every thank you speech, and every love song wasn't about devotion at all, but about image, timing, and advantage? That single shift in perspective has completely changed how this story is being told. Instead of pitying a man who lost his marriage, viewers are questioning whether the marriage was ever as genuine as it looked. And that's exactly why Megyn Kelly's name attached to this theory, whether confirmed or not, has turned a quiet legal filing into one of the most controversial celebrity discussions of the year.
Nicole. My wife, Nicole, marries here tonight. I love you, baby girl. 4 months into our marriage, my addictions that I'd done really nothing about blew our marriage to smithereens, and I went into the Betty Ford Center. Nick pushed through every negative voice, I'm sure even some of her own, and she chose love.
For nearly 2 decades, Keith and Nicole were the picture of stability in a world where most celebrity marriages barely last a headline cycle. Keith was the husband who gushed about his wife at award shows, the man who said Nicole saved him, and the one who called her his greatest blessing. But when Megyn Kelly's alleged comments surfaced, they flipped that image on its head. According to reports circulating across her audience and conservative media platforms, Megyn didn't see Keith as the doting partner everyone else did. She allegedly saw a strategist, someone who understood exactly what being married to Nicole Kidman could do for his career. The way the theory spread made it feel even more powerful. Clips labeled as Megyn Kelly exposes Keith Urban started appearing across social feeds, podcasts, and commentary pages. They painted a picture of Keith as a man who married up, stepped into a world he never would have accessed on his own, and used that platform to climb from respected country artist to international celebrity. Megyn's alleged take wasn't emotional. It was analytical. It wasn't about heartbreak. It was about ambition. She reportedly pointed to the trajectory of Keith's career as the clearest sign of the imbalance. When they married in 2006, Keith was already a star in country music, but not a household name name outside it. After marrying Nicole, that changed. Suddenly, he was walking red carpets at the Oscars, showing up at major Hollywood events, and landing primetime gigs like American Idol. Exposure that brought his name to millions of people who didn't even listen to country music. The idea wasn't that he didn't love Nicole, but that he also understood what the marriage meant for his brand. Megyn's perspective resonated because it questioned the foundation of how celebrity couples are often portrayed. In her view, marriage in Hollywood isn't always about romance. It's about positioning. Fame can be a currency, and partnerships can be investments. And when one person already holds global influence, while the other still has space to rise, the power dynamic becomes impossible to ignore. The alleged claim that Keith used Nicole struck a nerve because it sounded plausible to those who had watched his transformation in real time. They remembered his early interviews where he was humble, quiet, and country-focused, and they could see how the years with Nicole changed his public identity. By the time he was touring arenas around the world, appearing on television weekly, and performing at events outside country's orbit, people started to wonder if his marriage had become the ladder that lifted him higher. What made Megyn's framing even more potent was that she wasn't coming from inside Hollywood. She was speaking from the outside, from a space that thrives on skepticism toward elite culture. Her audience doesn't take celebrity love stories at face value. They look for the deal behind the image, the trade behind the emotion. So when Megyn's alleged analysis reached them, it wasn't dismissed as gossip. It was taken as insight. That's how one supposed comment turned into a full-blown theory, a re-examination of a 19-year marriage that people thought they understood. And once that question was out in the open, did Keith love Nicole or did he leverage her? It was impossible to ignore.
Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban have separated. T quote, "She's devastated and didn't want this to happen."
Incredible mom. Loving, maternal, you know. My wife, Nicole, marries here tonight. I love you, baby girl.
The shocker comes just 4 months after this love fest at the ACMs.
Who's having more fun today, you or her?
We both are equal.
As the claim spread, people wanted to know what Megyn Kelly was basing it on. She's not someone who throws out wild accusations for clicks. Her brand has always been built on analysis and evidence, even when it's controversial. So according to reports circulating among her listeners, Megyn didn't just make a vague statement. She allegedly backed it up with examples, concrete ways Keith's life and career changed after marrying Nicole. The first was visibility. Before 2006, Keith was big in Nashville, but not in Hollywood. He was winning country awards, selling out shows, but his name didn't carry weight in the mainstream. That changed overnight. After marrying Nicole, he was suddenly appearing on magazine covers that had never mentioned him before. He was at red carpets, movie premieres, and elite Hollywood events, the kind of places that make an artist more than a musician. They make them a brand. The second was opportunity. Megyn allegedly argued that Keith's biggest professional leaps all happened after the marriage. His Grammy attention surged. His name started showing up in crossover collaborations. Then came American Idol, a mainstream television platform that introduced him to millions of viewers outside his usual fan base. That gig alone rebranded him from country star to household name. Megyn's alleged analysis suggested that connection mattered, that being part of Nicole's world made Keith more valuable to networks and advertisers who wanted Hollywood's shine attached to their projects. The third piece was lifestyle. Reports claimed Megyn highlighted how Keith benefited from Nicole's wealth and stability. She already had global fame, critical respect, and hundreds of millions in career earnings. Marrying her gave Keith access to that world, to the image of elegance and prestige that followed her everywhere. While Nicole's name brought credibility, Keith kept full freedom to tour, record, and travel. He didn't have to sacrifice career opportunities to maintain the marriage, because Nicole built the home base and raised their daughters in Nashville. Megyn's alleged point was simple. He got to live like a single man on the road while still enjoying the reputation of being a devoted family man. And finally, she allegedly pointed to how cleanly Keith exited the marriage. He walked away without seeking spousal support, without messy financial battles, and with custody terms that confirmed Nicole as the primary parent. To Megyn's audience, that wasn't romance ending. It looked like a deal closing. After nearly 2 decades of mutual benefit, the partnership had served its purpose, and Keith's career was now secure enough to stand on its own. Whether or not Megyn actually made all of these points, the pattern they describe hit home for many viewers. It painted a picture that felt strategic, not sentimental. It forced fans to rethink everything, from the tearful rehab speeches to the anniversary posts, and ask a darker question. Had Keith's gratitude all along been part of the act? That's why Megyn's alleged take exploded beyond her usual audience. It wasn't just a critique, it was a reframe. And once people saw the story through that lens, the idea of Keith as the devoted husband started to crack, replaced by something colder, more calculated, and far more controversial. When Megyn Kelly's alleged analysis began circulating, it didn't just accuse Keith of using Nicole, it redefined how people looked at the entire marriage. For years, the couple had been seen as a love story built on patience, forgiveness, and loyalty. Keith had always credited Nicole for standing by him through addiction, rehab, and fame's chaos. He told audiences she saved him, but Megyn's framing suggested something very different. That the same story everyone praised as devotion might actually have been a strategy, a According to reports about her commentary, Megyn questioned whether Keith's early struggles and recovery actually tied Nicole to him emotionally, not by love alone, but by obligation. She allegedly pointed out that just 4 months after their wedding, Keith entered rehab, with Nicole supporting him through every step. To the world, that looked like unconditional love. To Megyn's skeptical eye, it looked like the moment Keith secured his place in her life. Once Nicole became the woman who saved him, leaving him later would have seemed cruel, even impossible. Megyn's alleged take suggested that this was how Keith maintained power in a relationship where Nicole otherwise held all the advantages: wealth, fame, and influence. By becoming the vulnerable one, he shifted the emotional balance. Every time he publicly praised her for choosing love or for saving him, he reinforced that narrative. It made her responsible for his recovery, his happiness, even his success. And for almost 2 decades, that dynamic kept the public convinced that Keith was eternally grateful, when according to Megyn's alleged analysis, that gratitude may have also served as a shield. She reportedly described their marriage as a performance of devotion, one that benefited Keith's image as much as it protected his reputation. His constant public admiration for Nicole built him into the kind of man fans love to root for: humble, emotional, safe. It made him the opposite of the stereotypical rock star. It made him trustworthy, a man who could headline family-friendly TV shows and sponsor major brands. Megyn allegedly argued that this wasn't accidental. It was part of the same long game that began the day he married her. And then she turned to the numbers, the part that made her audience stop and think. 19 years together, 2 children, hundreds of shows, 19 years of living in her world, gaining the spotlight of Hollywood while keeping his country credibility intact. And when it finally ended, the paperwork showed just how uneven it had been. Nicole received 306 days of custody. Keith got 59. That wasn't a surprise, Megyn allegedly said. It was confirmation. Proof that the pattern everyone missed for nearly 2 decades was finally out in the open. Under Megyn's lens, this marriage wasn't a love story that fell apart. It was a contract that expired. Keith got the fame, the access, and the prestige. Nicole got the responsibility, the parenting, and the silence. Whether her version was speculation or sharp observation didn't seem to matter. Her framing gave people something they hadn't considered before: that love stories in Hollywood might be less about heart and more about hierarchy. That's what made Megyn's commentary so disruptive. She didn't just talk about a divorce. She challenged the entire illusion of what the marriage had been, turning one of Hollywood's longest relationships into a masterclass in strategy and self-preservation. If you're still watching, hit that sub, because the truth behind this story is only getting darker. The reason Megyn Kelly's alleged take spread like wildfire wasn't just because of who she is. It's because her version of the story felt like the missing piece people didn't know they were looking for. Hollywood divorces happen all the time, but they usually come with a familiar script. 2 people drift apart, issue polite statements, and move on. This one was different. Megyn's alleged analysis gave the public something deeper: a motive. She connected the dots between career timing, media exposure, and emotional leverage, framing Keith's story not as heartbreak, but as opportunity. Every success, every public tribute, every carefully crafted image of the perfect husband now looked different through her lens. She wasn't telling people what to think. She was asking them to rewatch the last 19 years with new eyes. And the more people did, the harder it was to ignore how neatly the puzzle pieces seemed to fit. Megyn's audience loved that approach. She has built her brand on questioning the version of reality that Hollywood sells: the smiles, the curated interviews, the perfect couple illusion. So when she allegedly suggested that Keith might have viewed marriage as a career move rather than a lifelong promise, her listeners didn't see it as an attack. They saw it as truth-telling. They saw someone cutting through the red carpet narrative to expose the transaction underneath, but not everyone agreed. Critics argued that Megyn's framing went too far, that it turned speculation into certainty without hard proof. Some said she was projecting broader cynicism about celebrity culture onto a relationship that may have simply run its course. Others pointed out that Keith and Nicole had maintained mutual respect publicly and avoided drama, something rare in celebrity splits. But by then, it didn't matter. The damage was done. Once people heard that a major media figure had called the marriage strategic, that idea stuck. In the end, Megyn's alleged commentary didn't just question one couple's dynamic. It reshaped how the internet viewed the entire marriage. For nearly 2 decades, fans saw a love story built on redemption and loyalty. Now, thanks to her framing, they were being asked to consider whether it had been a calculated climb instead. And for many, that question alone changed everything. Whether Megyn Kelly actually said those exact words or not, her name attached to the idea was enough to rewrite the narrative. One claim, that Keith used Nicole, turned years of romance and redemption into a story about strategy, power, and ambition. It showed how fragile celebrity images can be, how quickly a public perception built over decades can collapse when someone credible questions it. Maybe Keith really did love Nicole and simply couldn't hold the marriage together. Maybe he truly was the devoted husband who tried and failed. But Megyn's alleged framing tapped into something people already suspect about Hollywood: that love and loyalty often come second to image and opportunity. And once that thought takes root, it's nearly impossible to undo. So now the question lingers: was Keith Urban the man who worshipped Nicole Kidman, or the one who used her to build his empire? Maybe the truth sits somewhere in between. in the quiet space where love and ambition overlap. But one thing is certain, Megyn Kelly's voice, whether she spoke those words or not, has forever changed the way people see this divorce.